absolutely. Of course, okay, Ellen, your time starts now. You're closing the event out at 3 p.m. with us today. And I'm going to turn off the microphone. I'm going to mute us so that you can just concentrate on you and we won't switch screens. It'll just be you talking. And if there's time at the end, we can do a Q&A.
Ellen, let's give her a round of applause. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Yeah, good thumbs up. All right. We have a lot of crows in the background, so you just need to let me know if I need to move even closer to the screen. I am sitting here recovering from a 5K race that I did this morning. And first of all, thank you very much, Mike and Denise, for having me aboard. I placed this morning first place in my age group at my 259th 5K or longer race for my age group since 2006, just on plants. So I am sitting out here just doing recovery mode in the Sarasota area, Lakewood Ranch, where it's just sort of this community of people, and I'm just hanging out here, taking in a little bit of vitamin D, or at least getting my body to produce some. So it was kind of exhausting. It was an area where I did this 5K, and it was called the Celery Field. So it was cross country the whole way, and it was up a hill that I train for a bridge race that I do, and it has an 11% grade. So I'm going to be 70 in a couple of weeks, and this is my second to last race in my age group. So when you're the oldest in your 5-year age group, it's very difficult to place at all. So the fact that I got first is just yet another reminder of how great plants are. As I like to say, plants enhance. And one of the things I do before every race is I drink some beet juice, which has nitric oxide, and it just fills your body on a cellular level with more oxygen, and you feel like you can breathe better. So it's really just a great way to enhance yourself as an athlete. And vegan athletes typically don't get arthritis. So that's just really another amazing thing about being able to run. I've been a vegan runner for 41 years, and knees are fine. They're just fine. People, when I tell them that I have done running for 41 years, vegan or not, they go, oh gosh, your knees must be shot. No, not at all. Very, very few injuries. In fact, this morning I met my coach who first got me into competitive running, and she was the head coach at the local high school team of running, because she had the way she described it, a weird knee injury. And yet, you just have to kind of like persevere. Has been with vegan runners, we just have amazing recovery, and we don't get injured at the rate our carnivore counterparts have. As a result of my racing all these years, I was asked by my publisher to write this book, Vegan Fitness for Mortals. And in here, I look at all the different disciplines of yoga, swimming, cycling, and give you some tools as to how you should decide if you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced athlete. And then a training program that gets you going very gradually. Because what I've seen with kids especially is that they love running or any sport, and then they get a case of the terrible twos where they do too much too fast. So it's all about finishing without injury. That's really my big mantra. And I want to be running until I'm 100. And because I competed at the National Senior Games, I have seen people much older than me that are still running. And that's what I want to be further down the line. And I think for me to be able to do that, I have to have a very anti-inflammatory diet, which is what a vegan diet is. Because I have been competing so much, I finally am starting to get some different kind of attention from the mainstream. And one of them is from an organization called Get Set Up. They are the largest online free platform of classes, any kind of classes for people over 55. And they called a couple of months before the senior games this past year and said, can we sponsor you? We'll pay your whole way. We'll pay for everything. It was about a $5,000 ticket. And they said, all you have to do is wear our shirt. So I gave up wearing my Eat Vegan on $4 a day shirt, because that's the shirt I usually wear at different events, and did it for them. And it got, a lot of coverage. And the thing that was really unusual is that for my age group, which was 70 to 74, I was the only female who ran all 7 track events. That's the 50 meters up through the 1500 meters. And then I did a relay. And I still placed in 3 of those events. So again, vegans get enough protein, they get enough stamina, enough energy, and protein. So no protein deficiency labs anywhere in the local doctors' protein deficiency wings in doctors' offices or hospitals. So the real thing I want to talk about, because I also spoke yesterday and kind of our organizer was not able to come to the Veg Fest. And so I took on a lot of those responsibilities in addition to giving my own talk, which was on my first baby, my first child, Eat Vegan on $4 a day. With inflation going through the roof, people are asking me, can you still eat vegan on $4 a day? And what is unique about this book is that it has an estimated price in every recipe on every single page based on ingredients that you can find at Walmart. And people say, ooh, are you recommending Walmart? And I go, ooh, if you live below the poverty level of $23,000 a year for a family of 4, you're already shopping at Walmart. I just wanted to prove that you don't have to go to a health food store or any place like that you can get the kinds of foods that are healthful on a vegan diet anywhere where reasonable food is sold. So I just want to walk around a little bit because I have been sitting around for a while, and it's just good to keep moving. That's really the lesson for everybody, that you just got to keep moving. And there's a guy walking by. Yeah, that's my vegan boyfriend back there who's just enjoying. He ran the race too. So, it's just so much fun to live in a place like this where you can do these kinds of activities and keep fit. I ran into one of my running colleagues this morning who said, and he won his age group, 70 to 74, for males. And he said, I bike, or I run every single day. One of the two. So that's kind of how you do it. And are moving to Florida at record rates. And we just had this incredible Hurricane Ian, which I'm sure you heard about. And I'm really trying to get people to connect the dots of how what we're doing to the animals and the environment is just so related to what we eat 3 times a day. And it's been kind of a sad thing to see what has happened, not here in the Sarasota area, but certainly southwest of us in Fort Myers and Sanibel, places that I used to vacation when I was younger. But what's happening now, I don't know if you all saw this graphic, I hope that you did, where Hurricane Ian, the whole eye of it, encompassed the last hurricane that came through this area, almost followed a similar track. Mike and Denise might remember Hurricane Charlie. And the whole Hurricane Charlie fit inside the eye of Hurricane Ian. And what is this saying? Is that our storms, whether it's a hurricane or flooding, just rainstorms, what is happening is that there's more power involved in these storms. There's more rain, there's more wind, and they're larger because we have melted these ice caps, and it's in process still, and that moisture has to go somewhere. So it goes up, it goes into the water, and when if the greenhouse gas effect still works on our planet, the moisture evaporates and it has to go somewhere. And it eventually comes down as rain or forms a hurricane or a blizzard. It's all been kind of documented in the movie Inconvenient Truth. If you saw that back in when Al Gore produced that movie, he really did prophesize what is happening now. So, but let's talk about how more immediate, because people really do care about what's in their wallet. How do you eat vegan on a budget? And people, of course, are always asking me, can you really still eat vegan on $4 a day? And I say, it depends. And the answer can be yes. So what I've been doing, because I showed you my recipes, back in 2008, when I started researching this project, I was a TV consumer reporter. I'd been, after that, a financial consultant at Smith Barney, and I've eaten this way for 41 years. So I knew that the price of beans and grains were ridiculously cheap. So I'm going to come in out of the wind because I don't want you to be hearing the wind noise. And so beans and grains are the cheapest foods you can eat on the planet. And I have been tracking the prices, especially of dried beans at Walmart. And the price of beans at Walmart, whether it is pinto beans, tend to be a little bit cheaper, and I don't really understand why. I mean, we're talking like fractions of a penny or maybe a few pennies cheaper than like the bigger beans like garbanzos or kidney beans, for example. But still, we're talking basically a nickel an ounce. So it's really, really cheap to eat vegan because that cooks up into about 4 ounces if you get 2 ounces. At a nickel an ounce, that's a dime for a serving of beans. And when you compare that, as I have, and I did just this week, beef tenderloin or even high fat hamburger meat, it is so cheap by comparison. Some forms of fish I'm seeing at $10, $15 for, and even $20 for something like Dungeness crab. I mean, who has money? $20 for Dungeness crab for an 8-ounce serving. So it's just so expensive. And I don't know who makes enough money to be able to afford those kinds of foods. So it's incredibly cheap, but the more important thing is the expense. And I talk about this, that you avoid by avoiding doctors and avoiding hospitals from being treated for these diseases. So there's so much that we can do to be helpful. And again, I ask, and I'm holding the phone with one hand here, and there is the protein deficiency. I don't think so. So that's what you get when you are 70 years old and eating this way. It's never too late to start eating this way. And just the prices of food, even things like that will grow easily. So people say, well, what about vegetables? And I say, or produce. And I say, if you give up meat and dairy, you have all this money left over to spend on produce. And there are ways you can get cheap produce. And let me talk about that for a minute. And even organic produce. And people say, really? You can eat organics on $4 a day? So if you go to a website called localharvest.org, it will show you all over the country. You pick your state or your zip code where a local CSA is. And that stands for sorry, just a little raised brain here. These are co-ops, and they are sometimes run by the government. They are sometimes privately owned. So they're community-supported agriculture farms, and they are amazing places where you can subscribe on a weekly or a monthly or a seasonal basis, and then every week you go to a drop-off point, and they give you a huge bag of usually organic produce. Sometimes they won't spend the money it takes to get the organic certification, but you can, if you spend time volunteering there, sometimes you can get a work share, which discounts off of what you pay to the CSA, or if it's even expired produce, but it really still is in quite good shape, you can get it for free. So if you volunteer there, you can actually see where they get their seeds from. I remember when I did that at my CSA, they were getting them from Seeds of Change, which has now become a much larger company and actually producing food packets of organic grains and vegetables. So you can buy those at the grocery store. Of course, that's going to be more expensive. It's always much cheaper to cook from scratch. And people say, "Ooh, I don't have time to cook from scratch." And I go, "Ooh, you don't have time for cancer, diabetes, or heart disease, because those are real time wasters." So understand that it's always better to try and prepare your own food, but I understand that it's not always possible. So if you wanted to get canned beans, not such a big deal either. They're going to maybe be 2 or 3 times more expensive than dried beans. but really it just doesn't take a whole lot of planning. You can soak your beans the night before in a crock pot or any kind of pot you want to cook them in, Instapot, and then you can drain the water and cook the beans while you're gone during the day. And at home, when you come home at night, you've got a great meal waiting for you, especially if you want to throw other things into the pot, whether it's a crock pot or Instapot. So I always have on hand some dried beans that are cooked up along with some brown rice or quinoa. And it really is just an easy way to, especially if you're going out to a place where you're not going to have a vegan friendly option, you can eat that before you go out the door so you're not ravenously hungry when you get there. And then just a dollop or two of salsa, just keep that on hand. And it's really flavors up your whole grains and your beans very nicely. Or you can dump them in soup. Again, taking a can of tomatoes or fresh tomatoes and just adding water to it and whatever your favorite spices are. There's so many ways to get spices that are prepackaged and nobody ever throws their spices out. I asked that once in an audience and people said, oh, maybe every 6 years. I mean, technically, you're supposed to recirculate, get new spices every year. But if you can afford to do that, great. But the point being is these spices are just great ways to add very cheaply to a big pot of food that you've got. So always interesting to see how much we can save at the store. I keep track of this and just adding some dark green leafy vegetables like kale or spinach that you get either at the co-op or someplace else is just a way to add a very healthful complement to your meal. And smoothies, of course, are a great way to keep it cheap. We always have frozen bananas in our freezer, or if not, just some fresh bananas. I joke sometimes that I'm a recovering Cliff Bar addict, and I still have trouble if a chocolate mint Cliff Bar comes in front of my face. I'm getting better about walking down the grocery store aisle and not picking up those kinds of things. But so I just make sure I have a stash of bananas on hand or apples or some oranges. And really those are my go-to sweets. And, nature was very wise in her infinite wisdom to create all kinds of fruits and vegetables. These are the colors of the rainbow and just so amazing to be able to have such a variety of fruits and vegetables. And it's just not that complicated. You don't have to have a PhD to figure out what you need to eat. Of course, all my recipe books, there's 6 different ones. The 2 that I show, they all have about 100 recipes and there's no overlap. But of course, the internet is rife with all kinds of recipes that you can pick up. And oh my goodness, we have a whole, wow. I've never seen so many crows in my life. I don't know. Was it something I said? I'm trying to protect you guys. So, yeah, just kind of relaxing after my 5K run this morning and having a good old time. If the wind noise is too much, please let me know and I will adjust. But we've got about 10 minutes left and I'm happy to answer any questions or I can keep talking. Just because, this is my passion and I'm really about trying to save the planet before it's way, way, way too late. And, we have all kinds of warning signs coming at us and I am just trying to do everything I can to show that vegans get plenty of everything. Now, there's always going to be issues, as you age, different things will happen to us. And how you deal with them is just so important. So making sure that you have a healthful diet and, vegans can eat unhealthfully too. We went to a new restaurant. Well, actually it was an old restaurant that had been closed for a year yesterday. And this was after the Veg Fest. And they have gone from being a raw, completely 100% raw food vegan restaurant to, and they're still vegan, to it's all pretty much processed stuff now. And they bought deep fryers and grills. And what they're trying to do, their bar is very nice. But what they're trying to do is really cater to the mainstream who would know more want to try going vegan than anybody. Really, there's a lot of resistance. So they're trying to break through in this kind of a restaurant to let people know that you can eat beyond burgers. And, you know, if your reason for not going vegan is I would only do it if I had a burger, there are so many different kinds of burgers. Are they all 100% healthy? Absolutely not. But can they serve as transition foods to get people there, just to get them interested in knowing how you can go vegan? Where do you start? Absolutely, these kinds of places and ideas can help. So, on the other hand, you know, if you want to eat more healthfully, you do have to make those conscious choices. And to do it cheaply, obviously, you have to be able to cook from scratch. So, some other ideas besides, you know, if you're doing a smoothie, you can throw greens into it, or maybe it's just a frozen banana with some berries. Um, I shop at stores where I try and buy organic when I am using berries, but you know, you can buy frozen foods, and that's really a good way to eat economically, because you don't always want to maybe necessarily consume a whole box of strawberries or blueberries, but if you buy them frozen, they can actually last over months. So that's just one way. And you know, whatever greens you might have to throw in, it depends what you're trying to deal with. If it's just maintaining good health, you know, maybe a few leaves of spinach or kale will do it. For some people, they need to put the whole 16 ounces in a big box, stuff it into that blender to kind of cure whatever ails them. So there are different ways we deal with these situations. And of course, just maintaining an overall healthful vegan diet is the way to really find your journey if you are just starting on a vegan diet. If you are an experienced vegan, I hope you will find something that is your passion, like I have. I mean, I've always been, for 41 years, I've been a runner, and I wasn't very fast. And what's happening as we approach the finish line of life is that fewer and fewer people of my age group are still around being able to run. And so all of a sudden, I have become somewhat of an oddity. And people are saying, like, how do you do that? And all I can say is just on plants. So what does that look like? What does a healthful vegan diet look like? So 2 or 3 servings of beans a day, and that can be tofu, or it can be edamame, which is a soybean in its natural state. It's not processed. And you know, people, you might hear, oh, soy is not supposed to be good for you. Well, I actually just recertified with Food for Life. That is part of Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicines, their cooking program. I did that before any of my books came out, and then I didn't have time to keep up that schedule as I was traveling the country. But COVID ended all that and taught us about Zoom. And so now all of these classes can be offered online, which I am picking up again and starting to do. But the point is, their recommendations, PCRM's recommendations, are 2 to 3 servings of beans, 2 or 3 servings of fruit a day, and we're talking about a day, and 5 or more servings of vegetables, because you really can never eat too many vegetables, and 2 to 3 servings, or I'm sorry, 5 servings of whole grains. So, you know, that might look like oatmeal in the morning. You cook up a batch of brown rice, you do maybe a burrito with rice or some other whole grain, stuffing it with vegetables, and then not, at night you might have a stir fry where you can just throw everything into it. And of course, for dessert would be what nature invented. You know, we have the biggest sweet tooth ever of all the mammals, because Mother Nature wanted to make sure that, in theory, we would keep coming back for more breast milk, our own species milk, as opposed to drinking another species milk like a cow, because cow's milk is made for baby cows to grow very large, and oh, by the way, tumors as well. So it's best that, if we can, consume our own species milk, and then we don't have to worry so much about things like breast cancer, because eating a plant-based diet and being able to breastfeed, those are all very good things to try and prevent against breast cancer. I didn't mention my mom, aunt, and both sisters had breast cancer. We were part of the BRCA1 and BRCA2 gene studies. I am the only adult female in my family that doesn't have breast cancer. So This has been a passion of mine to really try and help people avoid the pain and incredible suffering that I've seen in my life. I'm the youngest daughter in my family, and everyone is gone now. And it's just so sad that entire generations are losing each other and don't even realize it. So I hope you have found this message helpful. And I know we just have a few more minutes left. So if there are any questions, Denise and Mike, please do scream them my way, and I'm happy to try and answer. Otherwise, it looks like in this bright sunlight here, we've got about 4 more minutes, I think, until technically we sign off. But, I think it's just quite easy now, especially there are so many vegan restaurants out there, so many options at different restaurants. Usually now they have a section of the menu that is vegan, or certainly don't be afraid to ask the chef, can you prepare something vegan? And often they are very happy to do that because it's a challenge for them. And they just want to know that their clientele is going away happy. So you'd be surprised at what they'll come up with. I've had some really amazing dishes that are not on the menu just by asking the waiter, what have you got that's vegan? Or what's your best vegan dish here? And there are just many, many different ways that you can do this. So staying fit, it's really easy when you go vegan, and it's just, again, not very complicated. And if you have any questions, you can find me at my website, vegcoach.com. I'm always online, social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And I'm all about trying to help people accomplish their goals. I'm a certified personal trainer. This works. I like to say that running world, and if you can, it is swimming, biking. I think you'll find that it's just so much easier. And try the big canister, which is a little cheaper. Sounds like we're off. Sounds like we're off. So thank you all very much, and appreciate your time.
All right, we're back, Ellen. We just missed that last 30 seconds, but we're good. Aside from that, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, Mike. Have a good rest of the day.
All right, thank you so much, Ellen. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Ellen.
You're welcome.